it's so difficult to get over a woman that you've had sex with, that even though you might not even have like a significant mental connection or emotional connection, soulful connection, you just find yourself wanting to call her or text her or spend some time with her. Because sex is powerful, man. Sex is super duper powerful. One of the most powerful forces in all of creation, amongst all creation. For real, that's why. Because the effects of sex are so powerful that it works like a web, an energetic web for both of you. Like the energy, the totality of that woman's energy becomes a web all over you and all in you, and vice versa. Sex is not meant for it to be easy for y'all to leave each other alone. Because sex is a marriage. Sex is a super marriage. Anytime, I'm telling you, anytime you go to dip inside of a woman and a woman allow a man to dip inside of her, it's a wrap. There's nothing and no one that can break that bond ever. Ever. That's just how the Creator intended it. So what you do with that privilege of sex is up to you. You just have to be man enough to accept the fact that, hey, you know, I'm bonded to this woman's soul for life. You ever wonder...
All right, Shalom Akims. This is Brother Barak. Welcome back to another one. This is Yahawashi. First and foremost, I have to give all praise and glory be unto the Father and the Son, Yahawashi. The boss unto the elders and apostles of the great millstone, who will in time of this truth. With a sincere citation be unto the brethren pushing this word through truth and sincerity, risking their life and freedom to do so. All right. Barak, come back in another one. This is Yahawashi. And today, man, I just want to talk about this topic. Basically regarding that sex is marriage. All right. You know, I've been touched on it in a long time, but you know, I was meditating on it a couple of days ago, and this video popped up as well. So I thought I would definitely do a video on it. It makes sense too. But the spirit, man. Yeah, man. Sex is marriage, man. And you can hear what he's saying. He basically says it perfectly, man. You know, and the reason why you guys are going to probably think otherwise and all that is because the way society is, all right? You know, the way society is and how they maneuver. The Lord did say that this is an adulterous generation, but according to the ways of old and still the ways now, because this is the law, all right? You know, sex and marriage is the law, man, all right? There's no... a man getting on one knee, okay, which symbolizes worship. When you bow to something or take a knee, is you referencing or worshiping something, which is not supposed to happen. That's number one. Number two, with that being said, you'll find nowhere in the Bible where a man got on one knee and, you know, tried to marry a woman or whatever, man, all right? So that's never been a tradition, man. And to be exact, man, you know, that's these heathens' ways, man. All right. And I think in particular, you know, when you go into the Roman ideology and doctrine, that's actually a part of that, because they used to worship the woman, man. That's where a lot of that woman worship, feminism spirit comes from, man. All right. But to say the least, man, you know what he was saying that it's not easy to break off and da. And I believe in the world they call it soul ties, if not, all right? And the reason why that is because sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies that the Heavenly Father has ever created, man, all right? It has the power to create life and even destroy, okay? All right? And that's why you guys see in the modern times, again, I'm going to get the scripture after, but the Lord did say that this is an adulterous generation. All right, Slakia, that this is an adulterous generation. And that's the reason why you guys see, when you look on the news, STDs being so high among Jake, and particularly Jake, okay? Because Jake is whored out, man. All right, Jake is whored out, if you will. All right, but I'm going to get a scripture to prove it to you guys, okay? All right, so this is, give me one moment. This is Genesis chapter 24 and verse verse 63. And it says, Isaac went out forth to meditate in the field at the adventide, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. Verse 65. For she had said unto the servant, What man is this that walketh to the field to meet us? The servant had said, It is my master. Therefore, she took a veil and covered herself. All right. And why did she do that? Because back in ancient times, women weren't walking and gadding abroad naked. All right. This is why the Lord left a lot of things to the imagination, which one of them being the woman's body. Okay. All right. And this is an Israelite tradition, but you'll see a lot of this too. With the heathen a bit, they do some of this stuff, right? It was prominent on earth, man, back in those times. Okay. You didn't have no woman looking in your eye. You didn't have a woman walking with her cleavage out, her ass out. None of that, man. So, this one was a respectable woman. Okay, right? She covered herself with a veil because she was modest, man. All right. Verse 66. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. Okay. Verse 67. And he brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. Okay, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. All right. So where does that say Isaac took Rebekah, got on one knee? Where does that say Isaac took Rebekah and they had a whole ceremony and how they were gonna get married and da da da? Which the ceremony comes afterwards. I'm pretty sure the ceremony would come afterwards after the woman's betrothed or promised to a man. Okay. All right, after the intentions is there. But in the case of this matter and in the context, okay, Isaac seen a beautiful woman and took her to be his wife, meaning he went in onto her. You know what already that means. I don't need to get descriptive. Okay, he took her into a closed domain, aka a house. In the modern times would probably be a house as well, all right, which is a tent in those times, all right. They're probably camped out. And he went in onto her, man. All right. And she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So he took a wife after his mother's death, man. Okay. And some of you are gonna be like, "Oh no, that's not what that means." And da 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 da. Well, you guys think marriage, okay? When you get married, what does that woman become? Your wife. So he took that woman and went in onto her, man, and she became his wife, just like the guy was saying in the video, man. All right, I had to use this as a reference because he's basically saying a lot, man. All right, and it's pretty on point. All right, because he was basically saying that, oh, you can't leave that woman alone and all that. You're not supposed to be. Okay, you're not even supposed to put a woman away, man. The woman's actually supposed to stay with you until the end of your days, man, until the end of her days. Okay. All right, you're not supposed to be putting away women, but obviously, we live in different times in the context. But if you ever had to put a woman away, it would have to be for a reason, like adultery, or the woman, tried to kill you or something. Okay, and she leaves with nothing, as the law says. All right, Genesis chapter 29 and verse 20. All right, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days, for the love he had unto her. Okay, and this is in another context because back then, if you went through the whole process, you would pay a dowry to the father. The father would sell the daughter onto the husband. Okay, all right, and now you're her protector, you're her watcher, you're her giver. Okay, you're her lord. All right, it says verse 21, and the Lord says, and Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in onto her. Okay? That's how a woman becomes your wife. You go in onto her. Sex is marriage, man. Okay? There was none of this fucking difficult ass shit like now. You gotta take her on 50 dates and then she might not even like you. She might be using you. You gotta spend money on her first and this, that, and the third. Okay? And even in these times, it was worth it because the woman was a virgin. And not only that, all right, she was trained to be a wife. She was trained to be yours. All right. So you were paying. You see here, Jacob served 7 years, man. Okay, Jacob worked 7 years for a woman he loved, man. Okay, that's why it's normal when you see men going above and beyond for their woman. Okay, that's normal because that man loves her, man. Okay, men do crazy things for love, but you guys always wonder in society, why did he do this, why did he do that, or why did he kill his wife, and why did he do that? Because men actually love. Okay, Jacob worked 7 years for his wife, man, just to get her because he couldn't afford her. He couldn't pay that dowry. Modern time a dowry might be 20,000, something like that. Just get throwing out numbers there. Okay, you might not be able to. Well, guess what you would do? You'd work for the father. If he had a business, if he had a farm, if he needed favors, you would be there. You would be like his assistant. Okay, his father. Okay, you could be my assistant for 5 years, and if everything goes well and you're loyal and all this and that, I can give you my daughter. Okay, what we would call in the modern times fair trade. You trade value for value, man. All right. Verse 22, and Laban gathered together and all the men of the place and made a feast. Verse 23, and it came to pass that in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to him. There you go. Okay, he brought Leah to the man. Okay, he brought the woman to the man. The father brought his daughter to the man. Okay, I wonder why, right? And he went in onto her. Okay, verse 24. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid, man, a helper. Okay, a handmaid is a woman who helps or assists the wife. Okay, so also proving that a man can have more than one woman, because he was just talking about Rachel. He worked 7 years for her, and then he got Leah as a handmaid. He went in onto her, man. Come on, man. Okay, proving 2 points in one, man. A man can have more than multiple women, and not only that, okay, she's a handmaid at that. Okay, and he has two wives. Okay, all right, in a sense, all right, because if you have a handmaid, she's probably from the other nation, so she's just below a wife, but you still take care of her. You don't treat her like garbage. You still take care of her. Okay, and you give her children. All right, and she's under your domain, man. Okay. Verse 24, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. Verse 25, and it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah, and he said, Laban, what is thou hast done unto me? Did I not serve thee with Rachel? Wherein those has thou beguiled me? Okay, that's pretty much all the meat there. Okay, so then proving 2 points in one, man. All right, because marriage is sex. There's a reason why, you're there 10 years later thinking about the person and all that, because it's a powerful energy, man. All right, this is why they call it in the modern times soul ties. Okay, they call it soul ties, guys, for a reason. All right, you're supposed to be tied to that person. It's not supposed to just be you have 100+ body count, and even if you did, as a man, it would be done in righteousness and in order. Okay, because you had men like King Solomon, and you probably had other rulers, throughout history that had many wives and handmaids and what they would call also concubines, but everything was done in order, man. You'd have to take that woman in, she lives with you, and you rule over her, man. Okay, that woman is yours now. There's a reason why the Lord has these laws for a reason. All right, if there's no laws, you live like how we live in the modern time, 2025. Okay, that's how you live, man. You're gonna live like this, where people have STDs, chlamydia, gonorrhea. Okay, your wife can have another baby on you and trick it to be your, like. There's a whole bunch of confusion, man. There's a whole bunch of confusion, man. All right, that's what the hell's going on. All right, and to get into that and to further prove the point, this is Matthew chapter 16 and verse 4. It says, "A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall be no sign shall be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas, and he left them and departed." Okay, so even at the time of the apostles, or the disciples, okay, which they were in Rome. Rome is one of the most iconic empires and kingdoms to exist, man. Okay, they were doing the same shit, man. The same thing America has, high STD rates, and they were probably even more dirty because they didn't even have modern medicines. They hardly showered. They hardly do those things. So you can just imagine, man. It probably was even worse back then. Okay, but it's more prominent now because we have social media. There's more light on it. We have more doctors. We have technology. We have things of that nature. Okay, so a lot of these things are more highlighted now, man. But there's nothing new under the sun, man. All right. So when you go in onto a woman, all right, and there's even cases of she might have slept with another man. All right, if she's a widow, you can go in onto her, but obviously the circumstances are different in the modern times, man. All right, if that one pleases to dwell with you and she has no man and she's single, man, then you go in onto her, man. All right, but you'd probably do a little background check, make sure she doesn't have no man, she's not, she's valid for you, she's suitable for you and compatible, those things, man. All right, so just a quick little lesson, man. Sex is marriage, man. There's no promise ring you get on one knee, and also another thing is too, I forgot, you don't sign no contract, nothing, man. There's none of that shit. Okay, the Lord's contracts are all spiritual, they're not physical contracts, man. All right, this is why the Lord takes his contracts very serious, man. He's a very stern power. All right, because his contracts are spiritual, they're not physically written, they can't be tarnished or manipulated. The Lord's contracts are all spiritual. The covenants we make with the Lord are all spiritual. Okay, when you read the scriptures, it will show you that the contracts are all spiritual. And that's why marriage is also a spiritual thing between the man and woman. There's no third party like the government. None of that, man. Okay? So with that, man, I hope you guys ratified to the spirit and power of your shot. Just a little further insight on that topic. Again, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory be unto we found in the Son, Yahawashi, Yahawashi. Double honor to those and apostles over their great millstone, rule and time it is truth, and a sincere salutation unto the brethren. Until next time, I hope you guys ratified. Shalom.